What purpose does the gentleman from Virginia rise?
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion to recommit at the desk.
Is the gentleman opposed to the bill?
I am in its current form.
The gentleman qualifies.
Wittman of Virginia moves to recommit the bill H.R. 415 to the Committee on Natural Resources with instructions.
I think I'm going to have you do it again. The clerk will report.
Mr. Wittman of Virginia moves to recommit the bill H.R. 415 to the Committee on Natural Resources with instructions to report the same back to the House promptly in the form to which perfected at the time of this motion, with the following amendment. At the end of the bill, add the following new section, Section 3, Savings Clause. Nothing in this Act or the stewardship plan referred to in Section 2 shall be used as a basis to restrict current and future 1.
Gentleman is correct. The clerk will suspend. The chair would ask all members to take their conversations from the floor so that we may proceed with business. Clerk may read.
1. Development and management of energy infrastructure. 2. Easements and environmental mitigation related to paragraph 1. Or 3. Business and economic activities or expansion of such activities.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Americans are facing an energy crisis. High fuel costs are cutting short summer vacations, impacting family budgets, shuttering small businesses, increasing food costs, and threatening the economic well-being of this country. Recently, I learned of a small business in the rural part of my district that can't even receive shipments because the delivery trucks can no longer afford to drive all the way down to his shop. Mr. Speaker, the House is not in order.
The gentleman is correct. The chair would ask all members to take their conversations from the floor so that we may proceed with business. Gentleman may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This small shop owner who operates on already tight margins has to incur extra costs to meet the delivery truck closer into town. And this is just one of countless similar stories throughout America and throughout Virginia's 1st District. The majority's response to this crisis has been to repeatedly deny the American people relief from skyrocketing fuel prices. Defying basic economics, they refuse to increase supply and encourage production of American-made energy. The majority party decries the timeline of domestic drilling as too long, saying the American people won't see any relief for at least 5 to 10 years, as if it is somehow a bad thing for Congress to act with foresight in order to avert a deeper energy catastrophe in the near future. In the face of an all-of-the-above energy policy offered by Republicans, one that includes American-made energy, encourages aggressive conservation, and invests in and incentivizes clean and renewable energy, Democrats offer misdirected solutions like use it or lose it and recycle failed ideas of the past like the windfall profits tax. Today's consideration of H.R. 415 is another such mistake. Mr. Speaker, the House is not in order.
The gentleman is correct. The gentleman may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Instead of restricting energy development in the name of political partisanship, we need to throw every option on the table. And I'm reminded of a story that a constituent told me about Apollo 13 astronauts and how they solved problems where Mission Control took everything that they had at their avail, every tool, every piece of equipment at their disposal to survive and get those astronauts back to Earth. Today, Mr. Speaker, Congress is Mission Control, and we have an energy problem. This bill abuses the definition of wild and scenic rivers by designating the urban and heavily developed lower section of the Taunton River as wild and scenic. Not coincidentally, it's on this lower section of the Taunton River that a liquefied natural gas facility has been proposed, and thus this bill is yet another roadblock to increasing our energy supply. Not only could this legislation encourage budget-busting heating bills, but it will also bury local shipbuilders in an avalanche of bureaucratic red tape. Shipbuilding facilities often need to be modified to meet job specifications. By further complicating the permitting process, this bill stymies these businesses' ability to meet their customers' needs. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, the headline in the Fall River Herald News also reads about the impact on businesses, where it says, "Scenic River designation could sink waterfront businesses." Again, another negative impact on businesses. Congress cannot afford to remain tone deaf to the suffering of our country. This motion to recommit returns our focus on what's truly important to the American people: relief from skyrocketing energy prices. It prohibits restrictions on the development or management of energy infrastructure, and more importantly, it expands on the language offered by Representative Boyda to include sources of energy like clean-burning natural gas, which will play a critical role in our development of an all-of-the-above energy policy. I urge all members to support this motion to recommit H.R. 415. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose the gentleman from New Mexico rise?
Yeah, I rise in
Arizona.
to claim time in opposition to the motion to recommit.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Let me just read an amendment that passed this House unanimously just previous to this discussion. The amendment to H.R. 415 offered by Mrs. Boyda of Kansas. Section 3, domestically produced energy resources. Nothing in this act shall impact the supply of domestically produced energy resources. The point being that this motion to recommit has nothing to do with the protection of domestic energy resources. It has to do with the ability, by putting properly in the motion to recommit, to effectively kill this legislation. This legislation has a support, almost unanimous support of communities, elected officials, the delegation of the state, the governor, and has had 7 years of study in order to receive the recommendation for the designations that are before us in this legislation. I understand the need to talk about energy on any topic. This particular legislation has nothing to do with the high cost of gas. It has nothing to do with domestic energy supply. If we are looking for reasons, perhaps we could walk over the last 8 years of this administration and a Republican-controlled Congress and look at the failed efforts at really bringing an energy policy to the American people. That is the root cause of our problems. The root cause is not this designation today. Let me yield now to the sponsor and the sponsor of the legislation, the gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. Frank. Sir.
Mr. Speaker, first let's note the non-seriousness of this. It says promptly. It kills the bill. If you want to vote against the bill, you can vote against the bill. This says promptly. If it was seriously intended to be a legislative act, it would have said forthwith. Beyond that, it is not simply about energy. The last 2 lines say, nothing shall be used as a basis to restrict current and future business and economic activities. This is a license to do any business whatsoever. Now, I know a couple businesses down there that I didn't think the Republican Party would be all in favor of. They'd love to have this. They will expand it, they'll invite you down, give you a discount. This isn't just about energy. First of all, it's about killing the bill. But what does it say? The gentleman from Arizona read the amendment we've adopted about energy. Nothing shall be used as a basis to restrict current and future business and economic activities or expansion of such activities. It is hardly just about energy. The LNG plant has been rejected twice by the Coast Guard and once by that radical environmentalist, Secretary of Commerce Carlos Gutierrez, appointed by George Bush. I'm about to yield to my colleague from Massachusetts. He and I represent hard-working people, working-class people, many of them Portuguese immigrants and others who became American citizens who've lost their industrial base. They are trying to enhance the quality of their environment and at the same time offer an alternative economic mode. Mr. Speaker, I urge my colleagues, don't take it out on them. If we've got a political fight over energy, let's carry it out among the big boys and girls. Don't turn to these working people and say, you know what, you're not classy enough. You don't deserve environmental protection. That's for the elite. That's for the wealthy. I yield finally to my colleague from Massachusetts.
I thank the gentleman. Mr. Speaker, this debate has been, to say the least, strange. My friends on the other side of the aisle have come to the floor with pictures of the Taunton River that are not even part of the designation that we're talking about. They have said that this is about LNG and that Massachusetts doesn't want to do its fair share. Yet we have 2 LNG facilities up and running and a third that's already been permitted. They've confused their energies. They don't know the difference between liquefied natural gas, oil, and the gasoline you put in your automobile. I mean, their ignorance on energy is stunning. No wonder why they lost the last election. And finally, they have tried to make political points at the expense of the constituents that I represent and that Barney represents. As Barney said, these are hard-working people. The tone of this debate and the way my constituents have been characterized is insulting. That's a new low even for some of the people on the other side of the aisle. Mr. Speaker, in closing, let me just say that the Bush administration's National Park Service says that this is a good idea. If it's good enough for them, it should be good enough for you. Defeat this motion and vote for the bill. I yield back my time.
Without objection, the previous question is ordered. What purpose does the gentleman from Georgia rise?
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
Gentleman will state his point of parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that the majority leader, the Speaker of this House, could call a vote at any time on increasing U.S. oil production to lower the gas prices for Americans?
Stated a point of parliamentary inquiry.
Further parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
Well, the gentleman can state his first point of parliamentary inquiry. Go right ahead.
Mr. Speaker, if this motion did pass, it could be recommitted back to the, and I doubt it will, it could be recommitted back to the committee from which it came and brought forth on the next legislative day.
As the chair has reaffirmed on November 15, 2007, at some subsequent time, the committee could meet and report the bill back to the House. For what purpose, the gentleman from Massachusetts?
Parliamentary inquiry.
The gentleman shall state his point of parliamentary inquiry.
Is asking the same unfounded inquiry repeatedly a violation of the House under dilatory tactics?
It would be subject to the interpretation of the chair. Without objection, the previous question is ordered. The question is on the motion to recommit. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it.
Mr. Speaker, on that I ask for the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those in favor, a vote of the yeas and nays will rise. Sufficient number having arisen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. Pursuant to Clause 8 and Clause 9 of Rule 20, this is a 15-minute vote on the motion to recommit. Will be followed by a 5-minute votes on the passage of the bill, if ordered, and the motion to suspend with regard to the current House, with regard to House Concurrent Resolution 295. This is a 15-minute vote.